Hi everyone, welcome or welcome back to the channel. I'm Greer and it's lovely to have you here with me as always. I recently went on a short trip to Oman. And usually when I go on these trips, I always come away with some kind of physical trace of the place that I visited. Whether it's leftover currency, restaurant receipts, museum tickets, public transport tickets, just, random bits and bobs. And I've made it a habit now to collect all of that memorabilia and store it in one place, which is in my travel journal. And I do it in a way that's very similar to scrapbooking. As you can see, she is bursting at the seams right now. There's quite a lot going on in here. I have had this, let's see, maybe for about 10 years or so, and I've been adding to it ever since. But yeah, essentially one day I just had the idea to take this free journal that I got. As you can see, I papered it in brown paper. Papering books had a chokehold on me. My Caribbean people, if you know, you know. So in this envelope, I've got a few of those miscellaneous items that I collected while I was in Oman, and in this video I'm going to be adding them to the book just to show you how I do that. I'm also going to talk a little bit about the trip and what I did, and then I also wanted to touch on why I think it helps, or why I think it's useful to do something like this and to document your travels in this way. So let's just go ahead and get started. On this desk here, I've got all of my materials. So we have Miss Girl here, Thickiana. I've also got some scotch tape here, a glue stick, and why do I suddenly not remember what this is called? A staple machine. So it usually just depends on, how I want to attach each item to the pages. So why Oman? I had heard that Oman is one of the most underrated countries to visit in the Middle East, that it's really beautiful, the people are quite friendly, and thankfully I was able to confirm all of that. I spent 3 days there. I stayed about 30 minutes from the airport, still in Muscat, but in an area called Mutra. I stayed at this really charming guest house. When I was doing my research, I found this place and it stuck out to me immediately. The decor, the humility of the place, it just oozed authenticity. This was a solo trip. I did have an idea of what I wanted to do on each day, but I wasn't married to that itinerary, and it turned out that I had quite a few adventures in store for me. On the first day, I ended up meeting another traveler at the airport, this Malaysian guy who was in transit, and he was also planning to see a few of the sites. And we got approached by this taxi driver who offered to take us around, and we just figured, yeah, let's do it. Why not, So yeah, we were really lucky to find that driver. An unexpected but a much welcome turn of events for that day. What I've not mentioned to you as yet is that this probably wasn't the best time weather-wise for me to be visiting Oman. Now that detail is going to be a bit more important given what I'm about to tell you next, which is that your girl decided to go hiking in 40-degree weather. For my Americans, that is about 103 degrees Fahrenheit. Prior to the trip, I was obviously researching things to do, different activities, and I wanted to do something that was outdoors. And I found this hike in an area called Sadab, and I figured, you know what? I haven't gone hiking in a while. I think this will be a nice way to take in the natural beauty of Oman, see the mountains. So I decided to book it. But I definitely took for granted how difficult the heat would make it. I was not expecting to struggle as much as I did. When I tell you I had to tap into something different to make it to the end and back, I don't know how I did it. But I did it. I felt like I was on an episode of Survivor. I've never watched the show Survivor, but I felt like a survivor in that moment because it was a lot. But the views were extremely worth it. I definitely suffered a bit of heat exhaustion, so it wasn't one of my smartest moments, but I will say that it taught me that I'm a lot more capable than I think that I am or that I realize. Of course, I had to spend the rest of the day recovering from that experience. And then the next day, surprisingly, I wasn't as drained or as sore as I was expecting to be. Still decided to keep it pretty low-key on that final day. So I went to the People and Places Museum. I actually have some of the material from that museum here. So the idea behind the museum is that it's a group of Omani houses, traditional Omani houses, that you walk through. So you walk through each room and you've got this brochure that you can refer to read more about each of the rooms that you see. Their customs, their clothing, the everyday objects that they used. A really good history lesson and a nice way to see, you know, the growth over the years and how the country and the people and the ways of life changed over the years. I really enjoy museums, and when I travel to any new place, I always make it a point to check out any of the local museums there, because I think it's just a great way to get to know more about the fabric of the country. So I think overall the trip was a good balance between, you know, getting to see the sights and being a bit active, but also just lounging around and sort of, you know, decompressing. I didn't want to put too much pressure on myself to get a lot done. I knew that I wanted to do some exploring, but I also wanted to allow myself to just relax as well. I think that's one of the things I enjoyed the most, was just lounging around the guest house, enjoying the peace and quiet. I hadn't been on a solo trip in a while, so it was just a nice reminder of how enjoyable it can be. Navigating a new environment, allowing myself to just wander around and to be curious. So if you're ever in this part of the world, highly recommend Oman. Maybe if you're heat averse, you might want to go during the cooler months. I definitely want to visit again. So what I'll do now is just stop yapping and wrap up what I'm doing here so that I can show you the final result. And then we'll talk a bit about why I think it's so worthwhile to document your travels this way.
Got a temperature warning.
Oh my gosh, that's the worst. I know there's a lot of discourse, especially now, about whether we're over documenting our lives, and I think it's a genuine concern because so much of what we experience, I think we don't feel that it's real, or it's almost as though it hasn't happened if we haven't taken a photo, if we haven't captured the experience in some way. I think about like the pressure that I used to feel to do things like post to Instagram or post to my story when I experience something new. I think what I've even found happening now is that I don't feel as much pressure to take photos when I travel. I no longer give in to this sort of manufactured fear that if I don't capture the moment as it happens, then it'll be lost forever. More and more I'm finding, and I don't know if this is just as I get older or because I have a different understanding of what it means to experience a place, I find that more and more the memory is enough for me. And that doesn't mean that of course I still take photos, of course I still want to have something to remember a place by, but I just think that there's definitely been a shift in how I do that. And in terms of why I think this is so important, for me at least, and why it could be for you, I think there is something special about the tactile memory of a place that you just can't replicate. Even something like this restaurant receipt, it'll always take me back to the evening where I was just, walking down the street. It was so humid. I still felt like the ache from hiking earlier before, but it was a good ache. and I stopped at this shawarma spot. I got some food, I sat and waited for it. There was a stray cat at my legs, there were some young boys trying to coax it out of its hiding spot. And so very simply, it is a physical record that I can look back on and that I can share. And I think what makes this so different is the intention that it requires, right? It requires a little more than just you snapping 5,000 photos, a lot of which you'll probably never look back at. You've got to take the time to sit down, to organize all the stuff that you've collected, to put it together, to write reflections if you want to. And as much intellectualizing as I've done in the previous points about why I think this is so important, I think at the end of the day, it also just comes down to me being the kind of person that I am. If you've watched some of my previous videos, you know how sentimental I am and how much of a collector I am as well. And I think this is just a really creative and a really personal way to bring those experiences together. So I'd encourage you, if you are not in the habit of travel journaling, travel scrapbooking, give it a try. Have fun with it, be creative with it. There's really no one way to do it. You'll have something physical to look back on, a piece of history of every place that you travel to, and that to me is priceless. So that's all for today. If you enjoyed the video, remember to leave a like and subscribe. Comment and let me know how you like to document your travels. Do you do something similar to this? Would you consider doing it? As always, I'm happy to hear from you down in the comment section. Take good care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.